Hello everybody, welcome to Savaging Studios. I'm your host Ink, and today is another Inquisitive episode. So, I had a poll going on my DeviantArt account to see what subjects you guys wanted me to cover in my videos, and the top two on the poll ended up being my age gap love story and what my religion means to me. So I'm actually going to sort of take those two subjects and smoosh them into one video. So I'm going to be doing a religious based art piece, I guess, while I talk about the commonly asked questions that I get about being in a age gap relationship. So, I think the number one question is just as often not a question and more of a statement of holy crap, that's weird, or hey, isn't that weird? And this is even people who are close to me. Of course, the people who personally know me, their first question is, "Hey Ink, aren't you gay?" So isn't that weird in reference to "Aren't you gay?" But I'm about to explain. So no, I don't think it's weird at all. Um, I think that it kind of is built into the nature of society to look at age gap relationships even between two consenting adults with like a little bit of a raised eyebrow. And if I saw the same gap in another couple, my first response would probably be, "Huh, that's weird." For the record, I am 25 and he is 60. And he is a guy. As we covered the story of how we met in our Valentine's Day special, if you want to go check that out. Um, so, is it weird? I think that it is natural to automatically assume that it is weird, but it is not weird for me in this relationship. As for the people who know me and, well, aren't you gay? Well, I am attracted to women, and that is undoubtable. And I am not generally attracted to men, and that is undoubtable. But fell in love with this dude, and I think he's gorgeous now that I'm in love with him, and I'm perfectly happy with that explanation. I don't need to put a label on it. I mean, there's so many different letters on the LGBTQXYZ right now that I'm sure there is a name for what I am. I just don't really care enough to delve into what that might be, because to be honest, it's a little confusing, and I don't really care enough about labeling myself to take the time out of my day to look it up. So, um, I think another thing that people are curious about, I guess, is the "are you guys gonna have kids" question. Well, I don't know if I'm able, but if I am, I would be perfectly happy having children. And my stepmom's first response when she found out that I was seeing Jude, my boyfriend's name is Jude, her first response was, "I don't think that it's fair for you to consider having children with him because your children are going to lose their father at an early age, most likely." Keep in mind, Jude and I got together not too long after my dad passed away, because it was him being there for me as a friend after my dad passed away that really like cemented that bond and made me realize that I was in love with this guy. And I don't think that that's a fair statement. She's not the only person who's had that opinion, but people die every single day, and that is a fact of life. I'm 25 and I could get hit by a car tomorrow, and there are 4-year-olds dying of the flu all over the world. People die. And that shouldn't be a reason not to go out and live your life. You know, it's pretty sad that I actually have that mentality sometimes about certain things. After my dad passed away, his close friend kept on reaching out to me, wanting to hang out with me, wanting to see me, said she had pictures, and I just really didn't feel comfortable responding to her or going to see her or anything because I felt like she was trying to replace what she had lost in him. And to be honest, the things that me and my dad liked to do in our spare time, as far as reading and the movies we liked, that was all similar. But my dad was into a lot of stuff that I was not into, and I was not prepared to be that person to her. So I kind of just blew her off. And and recently she passed away, and I've got this little bug in the back of my head saying, so did you just not want to talk to her because you didn't want it to suck when she passed away? Because even when my mom called me and told me, she's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. I mean, that's unfortunate. I'm sad for her family, but what does it mean to me? But I think that I also have the general attitude of the less people you love, the less chances that you can get hurt in general. It's not just like an everybody dies thing, although that certainly plays into it. It's also just the less people you care about, the less people are going to fuck you over kind of thing. So, as far as having kids, if it happens, I'm more than happy about that. And if it doesn't, then that's a shame. And, going into the lifespan, life expectancy issue of people, I recognize that I'm probably going to be around longer than him, and of course that's heartbreaking, but again, I don't think that it's right not to live your life or enjoy your life because eventually you're gonna die, like, don't have kids because they might die. Don't love your parents because they're gonna die someday. Don't love your siblings because they're gonna die someday. I don't think that that's a good way to live. And if you're offered an opportunity to love someone who loves you, I don't think that them being older should stop you from doing that, unless of course you're like not of the legal age of consent, in which case, guys, jailbait's not, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Don't go for people who are under the age of consent, and people who are under the age of consent do not hit on grown-ups, because hopefully if they're, smart and normal and not messed up, they will leave you alone, and if they don't leave you alone, then they're probably really, really messed up. So, covering that, I have had a couple of people that know me, Ivy more specifically, asking me very honestly and awkwardly, do you think that this is like a daddy issue problem? No. And I think that my mom was kind of under that impression maybe a little bit at the first beginning of it too, because again, this happened right after my dad passed away, but we had been friends for a while before then. This is definitely not that. I can promise you there is no correlation. I've got a lot of issues. 99 issues, but daddy issues ain't one of them, okay? So it's not that. And my relationship with my dad before he passed away was actually much better than it was when I was a child. So there was nothing to, try and fill in the gap or whatever it is that about people's issues with their parents make them date people who are older. I don't know. I don't actually understand the whole concept of what causes daddy issue dating or what that means necessarily, just that my relationship with Jude has absolutely nothing to do with my father. Another thing that people tend to comment on, less so much about the age gap, but more about our role reversals, I guess you would say. Another reason why age doesn't matter in this case, because I like to consider myself relatively mature and level-headed, and he throws temper tantrums like a 14-year-old girl sometimes, so I think it all evens out somewhere in the middle. And in the same way that him being a guy didn't put me off to being in a relationship with him when I realized that this is what I wanted, his age didn't really come into consideration for me at all. And let's face it, as far as this goes, I mean, he pretty openly and willingly from the very beginning accepted the role reversals that I kind of threw on to him about, okay, if we're going to do this, I'm going to wear the man pants in this relationship. I'm officially the jar opener. I am, you know, I am that person. And as of right now, actually, um, I work and he cooks and he cleans and he's not the most thrilled about this arrangement, but I think that it's working out pretty well, and it's certainly working out a lot better than it was when we were both working. And because realistically, this society was built on the idea that one person was going to be a homemaker, usually a woman, but that was way back when, and that one person was going to work. And then women had to go and ruin it all by demanding that they had the right to work jobs. And now we all have to work because one paycheck just does not pay the bills. So it's tight, you know, sometimes. But I definitely prefer being the moneymaker as opposed to the dishwasher and the cook. And to be totally honest, if I was the one stuck cooking, we would both probably starve because he's way, way better at making food than I am. I'm sure the question that's on everybody's mind, most people are polite enough not to ask, but it's an undertone when people get curious. My sex life is totally normal. It is completely enjoyable, and everything works. Thank you for not asking. So, now that we have that covered and out of the way, I'm trying to think because everybody has asked, I guess, 1,000,001 questions. His family, my family, random people, people who see us together. It's, you kind of learn to ignore the looks, and I at least know not to take it personally when people ask questions. I think it's a little bit tougher on him because he's like a super private person and doesn't like needing to explain himself. And I think that there are benefits to being with someone this much older. On the last questionable topic that we covered, I mean, he knows what he's doing. So that's nice. And his life experience everywhere else, it's difficult to find that, I think, in people my own age. You know, when I get philosophical questions and ideas about things, when I hear about controversial topics and I want to figure out how I feel about them, I can talk to him about these things and bounce ideas off of him, and he's got a very developed, well-rounded view on the world, having seen it through as long as he has, and being able to give me informed information about how things actually used to be, whereas my mom is 45 and not focused on worldly problems and never has been, so her age alone, I can't get as far back with her as I can with him, but she also just, you know, doesn't care about important issues. She's kind of more worried about whether her leggings make her butt look fat and what shade of cover up she's gonna wear tonight. So it's nice having someone who has experienced life from a intelligent viewpoint for so much longer, and seeing things from his perspective is just this totally cool twist on the world, I guess. So I enjoy all of the aspects of being with him, and the tough parts about being with an older person really are simply that I know that he's not going to be around forever, but neither am I, and neither is anybody else that I love, and that's not going to get in the way of our relationship. I think the only other effect of like differences in our relationship that probably should make a difference but don't necessarily, but might be based on like the age that he grew up in, but it could be anybody. I mean, Christianity and Catholicism is like a popular religion even now. I don't know if it was even more so when he was born or whatever, but he was born and raised Catholic, and I am Wiccan. So there's that, which doesn't really conflict at all because I don't think that he is like hardcore Catholic, believes all of it, and is has to follow the Bible, obviously, or he wouldn't be with someone like me. And my religion is not something that I like actively practice every day anymore either. It's, when I feel I need to be religious, I am. And it doesn't affect our daily lives on either side of the spectrum. And our political views are like slightly different and we do disagree, but we both have that level of maturity where we can disagree and have a discussion about something that we don't agree on and not get mad that we don't agree on it, because I think that like the core points of like, to me, animal rights are kind of super important. Protecting endangered species is super important. And for him, I know that he's not really an animal person, so that's not his priority, and I can respect that. Um, but, he cuts the little plastic things on his beer so that the sea turtles don't choke and become deformed. So, I'm getting somewhere with him on that front. So, I think that covers the majority of the questions that we normally get. And if you guys have any additional questions, of course, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you want any other topics covered, leave it in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next one.